3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place you're not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We're here rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Bobby Hebert is going to stop by 20 minutes from now. We will preview the New Orleans Saints season, and then coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific today, Chris Hare, who does a great job covering the Chargers, is going to stop by as we'll continue our NFL previewing the Los Angeles Chargers. Appreciate everyone and their patience on my vacation schedule. I will be off tomorrow, obviously back today, and I have a busy rest of the week of travel. So I was in Pittsburgh. Well, let me start you off. Saturday, about like 15 or 16 of my friends, we met up at a local establishment, had a few drinks. Then we walked over to Fogo de Chao, and we celebrated my 30th birthday, which, by the way, I was elite, and I mean elite, attending Fogo when I was a lot younger. Now getting a little bit older, you realize that the body starts to slow down a bit. So one of my friends had his card on green. If you don't know, it's a Brazilian steakhouse. So you get a card, you put it on green, that means they serve you the meat. If you put it on red, they stop serving you the meat. And you could put it back to green later on in the meal. One of my friends, though, my buddy Mike, he had one of the most impressive eating performances I've ever seen. So Stu has been to Fogo. And Stu, would you ever think, because like we had a package deal, because it was a large group. So you had the salad bar that was included. Then you had all the meats that they were bringing to the table. Then they had desserts with that they brought out. There was like a chocolate layered cake, which was phenomenal. They had, what else? I want to say a pecan pie, a key lime pie, and they had a bunch of different cakes that they brought out. So after the cake came out, you would think, right, after having a few drinks before, whatever supplements you needed on the walk over to Fogo de Chao, then also all the salad bar, all the meats, and then cake. You would think that would be the end of eating, correct?
The end of eating for the night and possibly most of the next day as well.
It's funny you mentioned that. The next day, all I had until night was a protein bar because you had the meat sweats, and I also didn't get much sleep. I'll tell you that in just a second. So my friend then demanded the waiter to come back over after dessert as I'm paying the bill to slice him more meat on his plate.
Oh, my gosh.
And he ate 2 more slices of steak. So that was impressive. Then we took a 5-minute walk. We went to some bar. A lot of us wanted to watch UFC fights. I think my buddy Adam, he gave me a bet. The last 2 fights, 50 to win 300. So it was a very good end of the night. Then I got back to my apartment, and I had an early morning flight to Pittsburgh. So I was going with one of my closest friends, who I was born the 9th. He was born the 14th. My first childhood friend, literally. And we got on a flight Sunday morning, got up at, I want to say I got up at 6, because the flight was at, I want to say 8 or something like that, or 8:45. Drove to the airport, got on the plane, landed in Pittsburgh. We land in Pittsburgh, early check-in into the hotel. I take a shower, because I needed a shower, after traveling and then also the night before eating a bunch of different steaks. We buy tickets to go to PNC Park. Now, Stu, I bought the tickets to PNC Park, which, by the way, if you've never been, the Pirate Stadium.
I've heard it's one of the best stadiums.
Unbelievable. Yeah. It kind of felt like a minor league ballpark in terms of walking. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. But you know the minor league ballparks are like very cool, and they have because they have to have attractions to get you in there because it's minor league baseball.
There's stuff to do, yeah.
But the skyline of the city in the background with the bridge and all the building, it was very neat. So we land, and I go on SeatGeek. And I look at SeatGeek. Behind the plate, 2 tickets were $40 a pop. So I'm like, all right, I didn't even tell my friend. I just bought him, said we're going to the game. So we get to the game right as it was starting. Like, game started 1:35 p.m. Eastern time. We got out of the Uber at 1:30 from the hotel. I go to walk in. There's no barcode generating for the tickets. So I had to go to the ticket office.
Oh, boy.
So SeatGeek said they sold me the tickets. The ticket's loaded on my phone besides the barcode. Then when I'm at the ticket office, they go, no, this didn't go through. I get an email from SeatGeek saying we're going to give you a 100% refund and then a 20% off code. So my friend, who is a lawyer and sometimes could be a little bit impatient, just said, give us the 2 cheapest tickets. We don't care. So we were $30. It was all the way supposed to be up. We got Primanti Brothers, or however you say it. Can I be honest? Have you been to Pittsburgh?
I've not, but I feel like if you go there for the first time, you have to try it.
So I understand that it was the ballpark version of it.
It wasn't the actual place. It
wasn't the actual place, so I understand that. But I saw pictures from the OG spot. For how much hype this sandwich is, I would have thought it would have been a lot better. The fries were elite. The sandwich, if this is the attraction for your city, and I liked my time in Pittsburgh, it's a little overrated. Now, I didn't go to the original. I got it from the ballpark. but it's in, no pun intended, you would think that ballpark range, right, of what it is. So I am at the Primanti Brothers, however you say it, and I'm there, and the lady, because I was going there for Springsteen, the lady that was working the counter goes, oh, I also work where the Penguins play, where the concert is tonight. She goes, I'm hearing 10 different songs from the night before. And I'm like, how does she know any of this stuff? So we have our sandwich. We're supposed to sit right behind the plate. It's all the way in the upper deck. The security, the ushers, like in New York, if I tried to sit behind home plate at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field, heck, I've had tickets behind the plate at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field. They've come to my seat and they go, sir, are these actually your tickets? Like, I don't belong there. Come on. Do you know the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network? We're talking about a big radio national star here. What are we doing? We were able to walk right down. And it was almost like they knew we had those seats, but then SeatGeek took them away. We sat right behind the plate the entire game, walked around. Bullpen's very cool. It's in center field, and you could see both teams kind of warming up, so it's very close, intimate feel. After the show ends, or after, the game ends, we walk. It's like a 25-minute walk to where the Penguins play. In the middle, there was like a good restaurant. Went to, I had like some grilled chicken sandwich. My buddy had wings. We had a bunch of drinks. We go into the concert. Now, I despise the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know, the Penguins and the Capitals are my two least favorite teams, being a Ranger fan in the NHL. That stadium, though, is awesome to see a concert. It was cool inside on a hot summer night. The seats are massive. So fantastic legroom. And we didn't get food inside the stadium, but you know how sometimes you go to a concert and the drink service just takes forever because everyone's trying to get liquored up? You could get a drink within a minute or two. Like the lines, they were moving those lines. Springsteen plays. We are right behind the stage. There is a moment in the show during Mary's Place where it gets really quiet. And I scream out in a loud Zach Gelb voice, Bruce, we bleeping love you. Then it was like a domino effect where everyone or a lot of other people start repeating what I just said. Bruce then goes, whoever that first guy was, get him a beer. Awesome. So everyone in the section, right, high-fiving. I may have been on the Mad Dog Russo diet for that show. Potentially. Can't confirm nor deny. Show ends. And remember how I told you about that lady that told us that there was 10 songs that were going to be different the night before? I see a tweet, first thing on Twitter. Bruce plays 10 different songs. So I don't know how she got her information, but that was elite information. Then early morning flight back, show was Sunday, Monday. 7:45, I want to say our flight was, very early. Yesterday was off. Today working. Wednesday, tomorrow, because I had Springsteen tickets with my dad and my dad's best friend a year ago. He got sick. That was the date that we're supposed to go to, rescheduled tomorrow. So tomorrow, driving down to Philly, going to go to Springsteen, get a D'Alessandro's cheesesteak, because I won't be like Stu. I know the owners of D'Alessandro's, and my dad's best friend is very close with them. So he is bringing the D'Alessandro's cheesesteak because he said to me, Stu, I don't want to be like one of your producers that's walking around that ends up like J.D. Vance at Pat Sergino's asking why there's no Swiss cheese.
I could have used that. I could have used someone bringing me the cheesesteak. That would have been nice.
Well, you know, you were dealing with me, and you didn't utilize my cheesesteak abilities.
This is true.
Which I was very disappointed in. So Springsteen again tomorrow. Then Thursday morning, we are paid to be in Vegas Thursday and Friday by our dear friends at Circa to do the show there. So I have a flight out of Newark, 7 a.m. Thursday morning, and then we'll eventually fly back on Saturday. So long story short, very busy week for Zach Gelb, and I appreciate the listening audience. By the way, on National Radio Day, I appreciate the listening audience. In the summertime, that's when a lot of us take our vacation as we gear up for football. I don't take much vacation during the football season. And then during National Radio Day, I think it's a appropriate day to just thank the listening audience for being very, loyal to our show but also understanding that, yes, we do take vacation and you put up with it. So a few more vacation days before we're through Labor Day. But really, why, National Radio Day, there's a day for everything now. Like National Put Chocolate Chips on Your Pancakes Day. Like, there's a day for everything. But I think on this day, how I want to start the show, and I intended to start the show actually talking about the Steelers and how they have a quarterback problem, which we'll get to now later. I just want to start the show by saying thank you to the listening audience. Because national radio, it sometimes is a complicated landscape. Because like when you do local, you know who your listening audience is each and every day. But when you do national, you're on so many markets that sometimes they carry the show, sometimes they don't carry the show, right? You get preempted for like minor league baseball games, things like that. What I think our network does, even through a name change, which doesn't, get lost on us, even through a name change on a network, and I've said this before, and there's a lot of good national radio networks. What I think makes what was CBS Sports Radio, now Infinity Sports Network, different is out of all the national networks, I think we give you the most local feel, where there is a true community in the YouTube chat and Twitter, X, Instagram, Twitch, whatever. Whatever the show is, whether it's Maggie and Perloff in the mornings, Bill Ryder, the legendary, obviously, the standard Jim Rome, our show, JR, Bill Ryder, Amy, and all of our weekend shows, there's a community here. And that community was built by people before us and continues to grow with the people that are currently occupying these time slots. Like I say this all the time. The show that we did at Bob's Bar when DA was here, and the fact that I lost a bet and I had to park cars and there were listeners that drove from across country. There was a listener that drove overnight from Alabama. Like, I was really blown away by that. But what I think our network does, not only connecting on social media, but we try to connect into the markets that we're on. Because a lot of the national shows are like, oh, I'm based out of New York. I got to talk New York sports. Or I'm based in LA. I got to talk LA sports. So you got to talk to who's in your audience. And I know for sure, regardless of what some dopey websites may write about national radio and how people sometimes have a very negative perception about radio and its future. What I will say is, I know for sure our network makes an impact and our network provides a community. And I just want to thank the people that are in that community. Because a lot of times, right, we're moving, we're grooving, we're giving you opinions, right? You could call this show, I may call you an idiot, a moron, and a dope, or I may agree with you. You never know, right? And sometimes you get all caught up in what's the take, what's the opinion, what clip is going viral. And today is a day where, yes, I think it's cool on National Radio Day when all these hosts around the country, they are posting photos, and I've posted photos of some of the good times just that we've had throughout the last year. I think the most important thing is to thank the audience. Because without you, the audience, I don't have a job. Without you, the audience, we don't have a network. And there's been changes, right? I started here in 2017 or 2018. Whatever year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, right? That March. And, I started at 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern. Left for 3 months after doing that for 2 years. Came back, did 6 to 10. And now doing 3 to 6. And we always welcome new listeners, and we love new listeners. But you really get blown away by how many people that call in or they tweet you, like, I've been listening to you since the weekend overnights. Or sometimes I've been listening to you when you first started in Trenton, New Jersey, when you weren't even a part of the national network. So I just want to open today's show as we have a little fun, right? Summer day. And those days are winding down. And we discuss, about my traveling experience and the fun times at the show. I just think it's very important to say thank you to the people, whether you listen to us for 1 second or if you listen to us for all 3 hours, just thank you on this National Radio Day. And I can't wait for football season. I think this is going to be the best football season we've ever done here at our network. I really, really, since the inception of this network, I believe in our lineup, and I think our football season, in terms of national radio, we're not going to be second to none. Our football coverage is going to be excellent in college and the NFL. I had a program director say, thank you for talking as much college as you do. I don't know why so many national shows don't talk more college football. To me, those are the two sports. It's NFL and it's college football. And during some of our vacation, we appreciate your patience and also appreciate your patience all throughout the year as we gear up for what's going to be a special football season. All right, we'll take a break. We'll preview the Saints next. Bobby Hebert will join us on the other side. This is Zach Gelb Show. Enough of this lovey-dovey talk right here on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Football season is right around the corner.
Holding himself, runs to the left, he's to the 5, Lamar's in! Touchdown Ravens! They're going to have a championship game in Baltimore because the hay's the barn!
Will it be your team's year to hoist the Lombardi?
In the shotgun, Mahomes. He runs and he throws, caught, touchdown! It's caught! Hardman caught the ball! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won! The entire bench empties! Chasing Mahomes in the end zone. Their third Super Bowl in 5 years.
We preview all 32 teams right here on the Zach Gelb Show. The New Orleans Saints.
All righty, who dat? We'll preview the New Orleans Saints right now with the former NFL quarterback. He's the host of Sports Talk with Bobby Hebert on WWL in New Orleans. And that, of course, is Bobby Hebert, kind enough to join us right now as we preview the Saints season. Bobby, appreciate the time as always. How you been?
I'm doing great, Zach, but I used to listen to you at night. You know, we'd do a show 4 to 8 Central, and I always listen to Zach Gelb and Hot Take Hickey. So, you know, I remember those. I said, well, it's now, so I'll see you in the afternoon, so great to talk to you. And, boy, I don't know. The Who Dat Nation, we definitely under the radar this year. I mean, well, you know, to be relevant, we kind of worried right now.
Yeah, so I look at the team, and last year they were 9-8. And if you would have told me before the season they were 9-8, I would say they probably would have won the division, and that was the expectation last year. But we know they didn't win the division last year, as the Bucs won the tiebreaker, also being at 9-8. So I'll start you off with this, Bobby. What do you take away from the Saints season a year ago if you were looking for some optimism in what was a year that ultimately was disappointing?
Well, you know, so close, but so far. You know, if you get the double-digit wins, you should be a postseason team. You know, it used to go back whether you were 10-6 or even 10-7 now. But the Saints had a chance to start off the season 3-0. They were beating Green Bay 17-3 with 12 minutes left, and they end up losing. And then you can look; they hit that lull in the middle part of the season. You know, Derek Carr finished strong. If you look, they were 4-1 the last 5 games, and he had the highest completion percentage out of all NFL quarterbacks. I think he was like number 1 with like 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So can Derek Carr start this season how they finish? The first thing the Who Dat Nation would be, I mean, they would just like give up on the season, fire everybody right now. They got to beat Carolina in the first game. You know, they've got the dome all fixed up. The Super Bowl's coming here, so you got to be 1-0, and then you got to go to Dallas week 2 and beat the Cowgirls. If you can beat Dallas and start out 2-0, they'll have a parade. If we start out 2-0, they go, I'm just hoping after the first 6 games, looking at their schedule, that they're 3-3. If they 3-3, they have a fighting chance. If they're like 1-5 or 2-4, then people are going to say, we got, you know, the quarterback gets too much of the glory to blame on the head coach. They'll be getting rid of Derek Carr, and Dennis Allen got to go. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm just hoping for 500 at the beginning, and the defense is going to be tough. The Saints have a difference makers on the defense. I think we have the best cornerback group in the NFL when they're all healthy. When you talk about Lattimore, Debo, Lante Taylor, you know, those guys can hang, and then they drafted Kool-Aid, got hurt. We kind of figured out that injury, but then Kool-Aid in the addition. But the offensive line, this might be the worst offensive line. And I came here, you know, I was doing Atlanta pre- and post-game.
Sure. After
I played when Michael Vick and all was playing, and even Chris Chandler, to show you when I had stopped playing in 97. But when I came here in 2005, right before Katrina, with Haslett, they were 3-13. Sean Payton, Drew Brees come on board. They won 10-6. They went 10-6. Went to the NFC Championship game. Had lost to the Bears, but so they turned it around quickly. But I'm telling you, since 2005, to me, this is the worst Saints offensive line. And we've had the top 3 offensive lines. We had Pro Football Hall of Famers like Jari Evans. I look at Teron Armstead now with the Dolphins. Carl Nix, Max Unger. I'm going on right now. To me, we're replacing 3 new starters. McCoy, our center's legit. The Saints have always had good centers. Cesar Ruiz has gotten better at right guard. But you look at a tackle, we go in Fuaga, and I think he's going to work out at left tackle. But Trevor Penning, how could he have been the first-round draft pick? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, they're going to try and make him work out, but right now you would have to help him almost in every play. Now, he played better against San Fran, but who is he blocking compared to the Cardinals? But you either would have to chip, with the tight end, would chip with the running back or help with the tight end. No, that's definitely a weak link, and they want to run 49er-type plays. Kubiak, Clint Kubiak, Shanahan, that's the same offense we're doing, and they're going to want to run the ball. But can the offensive line open up holes? Alvin Kamara didn't forget how to run. Alvin Kamara, even though he's 29 years of age, you think that's old for a running back, but Alvin Kamara is a young 29. He still has that burst. Now, they got a block for him, and I just don't know. They have to be where they were last year, scoring defense. We were amongst the best. They've done that under Dennis Allen. And Dennis Allen might end up being a great defensive coordinator in the NFL, like a Wade Phillips. You look Vic Fangio. But
you have questions, Bobby Hebert. You have questions if he could be a good head coach. Because I know Mickey Loomis loved him with the whole Belichick stuff, but, man, I don't see this team really turning around all that much this year, especially when you point out the concerns on the line. Yeah, if they don't turn around, they don't get fired. I mean, it's just tough love. You have to win. And Dennis Allen, the coach, he knows defense. I'm telling you, we were plus 11 in the turnover margin. That was a big reason. Only gave up 19 points a game. Well, that's kind of going to be the formula. Because if we're in a shootout, the Saints have no chance. Yeah. It has to be like, we won 23-20 or something like that. And, we were plus 2 in the turnover margin. Whether you call it an ugly win, whatever, however, the Saints are going to win, to me, with their defense. DeMario Davis, I still think he has a lot left in the tank. He's an all-pro guy. What about Chase Young? Because he's been up and down through his whole career. I'm glad you brought that up. Exactly. I'm glad he's been a monster. I mean, I'm expecting if he stays healthy, in his neck and it's not hurting him. Now, he's whooping Trevor Penning, but he's whipped, the Cardinals, 49ers, linemen. Again, it's not like he beat Trent Williams, who's still holding out with the 49ers, but who are you going against? But no, he might end up even playing more than Cam Jordan. It might be Carl Granderson and Chase Young, and then Cam Jordan kind of rotates in there. But he's been outstanding. I would be somewhat surprised if he doesn't bounce back and have at least 8, if not 10 to 12 sacks this season. Bobby Hebert for a few more minutes previewing the Saints. Fair to say that Chris Olave is the Saints' best player? Yeah, but to me, Chris Olave could be every team's number 2 receiver. But to put him amongst the elite, to me, he don't get enough yards after the catch and doesn't make enough contested catches. People might say, what are you talking about, Bobby? Look at him, how he started his career. He has 1,000 yards receiving a season. Well, hell yeah, they play 17 games. He should have 1,000 yards receiving. The way I look at it, that measuring 17 games, you got to be 1,400 plus. And Chris Olave has gotten stronger, but he still needs to be more yards after the catch with the yak and then making more contested catches. No, we don't. The Saints fans, we kind of spoiled when you had DeMarcus Cousins and the not disgruntled Michael Thomas as far as bigger, stronger receivers. Now, Rashid Shaheed, he's an all-pro returner, and he can take it deep, and he's a better route runner than you think. But realistically, right now, no, the Saints receiving core as a whole is nothing to write home about. Really, when you look at the offense, put it this way, I think Alvin Kamara could do Christian McCaffrey-type things if he was playing with the 49ers, but I just don't know behind this offensive line. Right now, no, the stars on this team are definitely on the defensive side. Who wins the division this year, Bobby, in your opinion? If the Falcons don't win, I mean, they have all their chips in the middle of the table.
I mean, come on, we wanted Justin Simmons. Now I think they have the best duo safeties with Bates.
Yeah.
And all chips are in just and they get Judon from the Patriots. No, listen, Arthur Blank, he said, man, I'm getting older. We cannot dwell on what it would be like. If they don't make the playoffs, it'll be 7 straight seasons Atlanta hasn't made it. And, you know, who that nation will always remind Atlanta fans, even though I was a mercenary and played for both teams, how can you be winning 28-3 and lose? I mean, Super Bowl. So they never going to let that go. So Arthur Blank in Atlanta, they're like, if not now, then when? And I'm a Kirk Cousins fan. I think Kirk Cousins, the supporting cast they have, I'm not saying about winning a Super Bowl, but get to the playoffs, I'd say I'd be shocked if Atlanta don't make the playoffs. Now, you think it's NFC South. I don't know about, the wild card situation. But I think both for Atlanta, what's realistic because the NFC South is kind of the NFC South. Both for Atlanta, Tampa Bay, or the Saints, I don't see Carolina at that number. But either one of those teams, if they can accomplish what Tampa Bay did last season, then your fans shouldn't be bitching. In other words, what Tampa Bay did, they won the NFC South. You host a playoff game, and they won. They beat the Eagles. Anything beyond that, no one realistically thinks. Now, the 49ers are a measuring stick. No one realistically thinks that if Atlanta wins the NFC South or Tampa Bay wins it again, that they're representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. No, it's like right now, I think in the NFC South, okay, who's going to the division to get to the playoffs? And what Tampa Bay did in Baker Mayfield was outstanding. I mean,
Sure.
To me, to even win one playoff game and you host it. I think that'd be the best case scenario for the Saints would be very similar to what Tampa did last year.
Last thing I'll ask you, Bobby Hebert. When you look at the Saints, you think it's more likely that they're in the playoffs this year or picking in the top 5 of the draft?
You know what? They're not going to be bad enough, but that doesn't mean they're going to be good enough. I think it's going to be the same song and dance. I think it's going to be 8-9, 9-8 in the middle of the pack.
So just stop.
The NFL loves that. I don't see like the Saints going like 5-12 or 6-11. No, I tell you what, I'd be even disappointed if they'd be like a 7-10 team. I think they're kind of like 8-9, 9-8, because I think their defense is that good. And you think, it's an offensive league now, but no, if you play top scoring defense, then you still have a chance to win, but that doesn't mean you're winning anything.
He is Bobby Hebert. Bobby, always appreciate the time. Good to catch up. Thanks for coming on.
All right, Zach. I don't know if I had enough hot takes like Hickey or something. I don't know about that.
Well, you know what? I can guarantee you this. You'll probably be more right than Hickey is.
Okay, all right, Zach.
Absolutely love it. There he is, Bobby Hebert joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Stu, isn't that something? Hickey obviously still works at the network. We bring him on a bunch. We talk about him a bunch. And obviously, I have a long history with Hickey, with him working as my producer for all those years. But there are so many guests that will still be like, hey, I was listening and I heard that guy that was producing, like Roman Harper. It's always the former Saints guys. Zach Strief, Roman Harper, Bobby now Hebert. They love going after Hickey.
I mean,
it's wild.
I get why. They probably hear something that's off the wall, and they're like, oh, who's that? And that's Hickey.
I forget. Oh, maybe it was it John Kuhn? Someone texted me. It was over a year ago. They were like, that was one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard someone say. But we love Hickey. We obviously love him. All righty, we'll take a timeout. We'll come on back. We'll update some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We'll get to a news brief next. Update time first, though. Here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your family, your phone, and your furry friends with life, electronic device, and pet health insurance. The Bears will wrap up the preseason Thursday night against the Chiefs, and top pick Caleb Williams will not play in the finale before the regular season opener. Matthew Stafford over his sore hamstring. He returned to Rams practice. And Justin Herbert back for the Chargers after missing 3 weeks with plantar fasciitis. The two best teams in the American League get together tonight in New York. The Yankees hold a half-game lead in the East and host the Guardians. Cleveland has seen its lead in the Central dip to 2.5 games. Stephen Vogt's team coming off a rough weekend in Milwaukee in which they were swept. Guardian skipper said his team doesn't have much time to find out a cure.
There's obviously some things we could be doing better offensively, but that's the case with every night, every game in America. There's always more you can do, but you got to tip your cap to the way they threw. I mean, they knew us, they scouted us, and they attacked our weaknesses and didn't miss their spots. And good pitching will always beat good hitting.
The Orioles trailed the Yankees by a half game after last night's loss in Queens. The win put the Mets a game and a half behind Atlanta for the final wild card in the NL. The Braves will host the Phillies. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X and like us on Facebook. Our handle is @INF Sportsnet on X and INF Sportsnet for Facebook.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
The Defense of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is Bucs linebacker Jose Ramirez in Saturday's preseason game against the Jaguars. A second-year player out of Eastern Michigan had 3 sacks to go along with 5 total tackles. The reason I paused there is I usually just look at the name, and I saw Jose Ramirez, and I just thought baseball, right?
Of course, Guardians.
One of the best players in baseball. And when I read Bucs linebacker Jose Ramirez, I was like, is this one of those Anchorman moments where I'm about to say, you go bleep yourself, San Diego? Now, before we get to the audio sound of the news brief, I think the biggest news item that we have is that there's new studio lights in here. So we're still tinkering with the studio lights if you're watching this on YouTube. On my flight back from Pittsburgh, I saw Maggie and Perloff on Monday. They looked like that we lost power and they were in the dark and like they had like a little flashlight underneath them. So they changed that throughout the day and it's got better. But I did ask Moist Mike and you during the break, how does it look? And even the great Cap even chimed in and he said, would Zach consider wearing an anti-shine makeup because supposedly I'm glowing on the YouTube stream? Now, I don't know if that's a bad thing, but I did look over to the camera to the right. Yeah, I would say I'm glowing a little bit. Now, I will say if I'm glowing, because we even talked about this last week, man, it is just destroy Hickey week, I feel like. Bobby Hebert started it. I said to Hickey when he was in studio with us last week, Stu, that on like YouTube, all the people, they comment about the height of his hair and then also how shiny his forehead is from whenever he's in the studio. So if my forehead is shiny, this is going to be a big Hick at night coming up on Sunday when Ryan Hot Take Hickey starts to stream his show on YouTube, because if my forehead is shiny, I can't imagine how shiny his forehead's going to be.
Yeah, might break the camera with how much light is coming off of that hair. I don't know.
It could blind someone. There is no doubt about it.
Should be a hazard warning whenever someone clicks the stream.
Warning, warning, warning. You're about to watch the Hot Take Hickey Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Please, please, please don't sue us if you get blinded by the light coming off of Hot Take Hickey's forehead. So I may have to wear anti-shine makeup now? I don't even know what that is. Could be an interesting next contract negotiations. I demand a makeup girl! Alrighty, let's go to Adam Schefter. Shefty was on to ESPN, and he commented on the Jamar Chase contract situation.
Now, I think Cincinnati still will push to get this deal done, but from my understanding, there hasn't been a whole lot of progress. And if there's not a whole lot of progress, you wonder what's next. Now, Chad Ochocinco, the former Bengals great wide receiver, said over the weekend he thinks the two sides will figure out a deal this week, but he also added that if the two sides can't get a deal done, he does not believe that Jamar Chase will step foot on a football field again until he has a new contract. And I think there are other people around the league who feel the same way about that.
So here's my advice that I give Jamar Chase, and Shefty kind of alluded to it and talked about it, and it's the same advice that I would give CeeDee Lamb. I would rarely advocate for a player holding out, but Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb have all the leverage. There is no doubt in my mind that the Bengals and Cowboys will both get deals done with Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb. So I would miss a game. And, you know, I said this for CeeDee Lamb. You missed the first game. It's up against the Cleveland Browns. So you have the ability to make a big statement because the offense is going to be dreadful without you, and you get a deal done in week 2. So could you imagine if you have CeeDee Lamb missing a game for the Cowboys up against the Browns, and that gets him a new deal, which it shouldn't have to go that long. But as bizarre as that one is, it's even more bizarre on the Jamar Chase situation because, he's Joe Burrow's BFF. They've been together since LSU. Now, the Bengals in week 1 could probably beat the Patriots without Jamar Chase, but the Bengals should be all in because this is the last hurrah of T. Higgins probably there. We know it's not the last hurrah with Jamar Chase, but it would basically be pointless for them not to get a deal done with Jamar Chase. He's going to be right, Stu, the highest paid wide receiver in the league. He's a guy that's that good, and that will reset the market. And the biggest thing he has going for him is not only his talent, but the face of the franchise is Joe Burrow, and he's not going to let Jamar Chase leave Cincinnati.
He's that good, and he's next man up like we always see with the quarterbacks. It's probably the same for the receivers, and Chase is a good enough guy to reset the market.
Let's go to Jonathan Gannon. He was on with Adam Shine on Sports on Mad Dog Sports Radio. And Jonathan Gannon had big-time praise for Kyler Murray.
Physically and mentally, he looks damn good.
Yeah.
He looks damn good. So I think right now where he's at, to even when he got back last year or even where he finished last year, I think he's leaps and bounds ahead. His will to win is extremely high. And if you detail out and lay out for him what is needed from him to improve himself, the offense, and the team, he is 1,000% willing to do that. So I love the guy because he's done everything that I asked of him and more.
I think people forget the conversation around Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, when we last saw him play a full season, was viewed as a good quarterback, and can he turn out to be a great elite quarterback in this league? But since then, he's got paid like a great quarterback, and unfortunately he got hurt, so it has not allowed him the opportunity to display if he's a great quarterback or not. I think this is the year that Kyler Murray shows in a tough situation, at least he has Marvin Harrison Jr., that he could be a good quarterback again, and he'll still be the guy for the Cardinals, and then a year from now, we'll really start to see if he could take that next step. Let's go to Jaden Daniels on earning the starting job with the Washington Commanders.
Everything in life is you got to earn it. Nothing's given. So what DQ and them preach here is competition, and you got to earn. You got to earn your right to stay. You got to earn your right on the field and into position. So be able to go out there and compete, and makes everybody better. So what they preach, and they hold true to that.
Let's be real. I'm not saying that he didn't win the competition, but when your opponents in the competition are Marcus Mariota, Jeff Driscoll, and Sam Hartman, yeah. Jaden Daniels, you are easily going to win that competition. And the Commanders have enough around him with Brian Robinson Jr., with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, that they should throw him into the pool and see if he's going to swim or sink in week 1. Because the Commanders, they are an organization that they have new life because of the fact that Daniel Snyder, that terrible human being, is no longer in the league. And now you need that star player. And Jaden Daniels can be a star player. And he's the guy. I don't care about the wins or the losses this year for the Commanders. It's at the end of the year, do you walk away thinking that you have your franchise quarterback? And those are the tangible moments that we don't need to see in the win-loss column. We just need to see on the field this year him provide enough tangible moments, and I believe in Jaden Daniels. Let's go to Jacoby Brissett. Does he view himself as the starter with the New England Patriots?
July 26th, Gerard said...
Oh, this year?
This year. You're the starting quarterback. This morning, he said it's still a competition. He hadn't decided on the starting quarterback. How do you view that sort of door opening, maybe? Or
Nah, man, I still treat myself as if I'm the starter. Man, I can't worry about that. I just go out there and just do my job. And, hey, I've been in this league long enough. A lot of crazy things have happened in my career so far, and I wouldn't be shocked by anything. But at the same time, man, I'm enjoying this process and just put my best foot forward and just letting the chips fall where they lay.
I just don't think Jacoby Brissett has been all that impressive, which he's not supposed to be impressive. He is the guy that will hold the baton until Drake May is ready. And Drake May this past week has really started to come along, but I don't think the Patriots are starting Drake May week 1. Quite frankly, you look at the first 4 weeks of the season, at Cincinnati, Seattle, at the Jets, at the Niners. I'd be very surprised, barring injury, if Drake May's playing the first 4 weeks of the season. Now, the schedule doesn't really ease up after that, but then you have 4 straight home games. Miami, Houston, well, 3 out of 4 are home. One's listed as a home game, but it is, not in the U.S. Where they go up against Jacksonville. I think that's in London. And then they play the Jets. So if you want to wait till November, I'm okay with that. But I think sometime in October, you will see Drake May starting games for the Patriots because only so long you can hold off the fans. And I think this team, like if the Patriots start the year 0-4, no one's surprised. If they start the year 1-3, I think they'd be lucky. With the Bengals, the Seahawks, the Jets, and the Niners, they start the year off 0-4. How are you not playing them up against the Dolphins, Drake May, the kid, in Week 5 up against the Miami Dolphins? Let me go to Raheem Morris. Will Michael Penix Jr. play again in the preseason?
Did I understand you correctly after the game that you don't plan to play Michael this week, Friday night?
No, it'll look really similar to what we did, right? Michael's role is really clear on what we want to see. We had a chance to get him 2 really hard practices versus the Dolphins. And I'll be able to get a nice look at him on Wednesday and some of the problems and the things that we want to see if he can actually grasp and hold on to a little bit more from our standpoint, which he's done a great job of getting better throughout this process.
I actually thought they would have played him, but it just once again shows you how much the coaches for players they expect to one day be stars devalue the preseason now. I will say this. I think the big misnomer with the Falcons is a lot of people believe that Kirk Cousins is going to be there 2 years. I think that's the Falcons' plan on this 4-year deal. Have him 2 years, then go to Michael Penix Jr. Well, 2 things can prevent that from being the plan that actually gets in place. One is Kirk Cousins. Kirk may be like, hey, I'm done after this year, and he could request a trade. Doesn't mean they have to trade him, but I really do think that's on the table. The other could be if there is rust with Kirk Cousins, and the Falcons, I think they're going to win the division, but if their season doesn't go the way that we think, if they're like out of it in the final few weeks of the season, they could maybe even bench Kirk Cousins and play Michael Penix Jr. And another part about this is a player with an injury history. If he is supposed to be your face of the franchise, whether it's next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe the Falcons just don't want to risk him getting hurt in a preseason game in a year that they don't intend him to really be playing football, as he's going to be holding a clipboard by design for at least this year. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, Tua Tagovailoa sounds off on his old coach, Brian Flores, and now we have new audio. Brian Flores answers back. We'll play that for you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, welcome back in hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Stu just showed me. This sucks. Stu showed me the video during the break of Maggie Gray's basement from the Maggie and Perloff show, our great Eastern Time morning show on our national network, which you'll do 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And Maggie's basement is flooded. Stu, there's like flooding, and then there's your basement looking like a swamp. I think we could like put a canoe in Maggie's basement, and it could basically be like being out on a river in a summer Saturday, or a lake on a summer Saturday. I don't know how enjoying it would be, but man, I feel terrible. Absolutely terrible for Maggie, because this stuff is like damaged. There's a backpack floating around in this swamp. If you like got a bunch of goldfish and threw them down in the basement, they'd be able to swim and basically have a fiesta. Oh, this sucks. You know, I mean, that show's had a lot of bad luck recently. EJ with the patella tendon injury and the charity kickball game, Maggie's basement flooding, and then do you know the bad luck that Andrew Perloff had to experience with recently?
I don't think I do.
So I saw Maggie and Perloff was at a Fanatics Fest. Now, on their show, these are not my words. I'm just repeating what has been said on their show. It has been made to the listeners' attention. And it's been brought to their attention that Maggie has really big feet. Or have you been made aware of that? I've heard Maggie say it, that she has really big feet.
I've not heard of this, no.
The first time I just heard that randomly dropped in their show, I was like, what the heck? Like, I think it was like Bogus or someone that said, yeah, Maggie, with your big feet. I'm like, ooh, that just doesn't sound right. But I guess Maggie has made everyone aware that she has really big feet. So one of the first things I saw on social media a few days ago at Fanatics Fest was Maggie in the UFC octagon. I hope it was in a mocking way and it wasn't serious, but it looked like she was winding up with that big foot of hers and trying to kick Andrew Perloff in what looks like to be his cojones area.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. And I finally realized how big of a foot Maggie Gray has. If Maggie Gray was kicking for the Buffalo Bills, they may have actually made it to the AFC Championship game last year. I think she would have been able to kick that ball, judging by how she was lining up with that big foot of hers on Perloff. I think she would have been able to kick that ball right down the middle. There would have been no wide right. I don't think it would have happened. Maybe the Bills should bring in Maggie and say goodbye to Tyler Bass. But geez Louise, I feel terrible for Maggie. Have you ever had any part of your apartment or home flood?
My parents' home, a little bit in the basement, but not like that. Like, whatever, like a inch of water, not like 2 feet of water, which it seems
Two
like.
instances for me. When the year out of college, I was living, it was probably the worst apartment I've ever lived in. A year out of college. And I was living in Philadelphia with one of my good friends from college. And I took an off day. And back then, I barely took any off days because I was basically like the radio station where I was working at. And in the middle of the night, for some reason, I went to the bathroom. And then when I was walking back from the bathroom, just having to take a number one, I saw my computer was on the floor. So I took my computer and put it on the countertop. Thankfully, I did that because we were the bottom floor of this apartment. I will never live in a bottom floor of an apartment complex again. Just will never do it, especially living in New York City. This was in Philadelphia, but in New York with all the rats and everything, I have to at least be on the 5th floor or higher. So my roommate wakes me up on my one off day, and he goes, "There's crap everywhere." And I'm like, "What do you mean there's crap everywhere?" There was a sewer problem. And Stu, I kid you not, from the showers and also the toilet, I guess everyone's crap in the building started coming up through our drains.
Oh.
All over the place. Now, thankfully, I had the room further away from the bathroom, so I only had minimal flooding, but our entire living room was flooded, and my friend's entire room was literally covered in crap.
That's horrible.
Now, I didn't think I was the common denominator here. I didn't think this had anything to do with me. But when the pandemic first started, all these years later, I was living at my parents' place, and the area I was doing the show in my parents' basement, like a week in, when we were working at home for 3-4 months before I moved back to my New York City apartment and said, okay, Mark Chernoff at the time, our boss, I've had enough. I love my folks, but I've had enough living at home. I am a young adult. I'm coming back into work, and I'm staying in my New York City apartment. I'm paying the rent there anyway, and I couldn't have done the show out of my New York City apartment. I just don't think it would have been right. So, a week into doing the show at home, my parents' basement flooded, and it was the same thing. The sewer was backed up, and the basement just started flooding. So, I do wonder if that has to be a me issue or if that was just a coincidence. I do not know, but I'll never forget. I sounded so echoey because there was a day where like all the carpet was ripped up in the basement and all the furniture was moved, where I was literally doing the show in the basement and there was like nothing there. And my old producer at the time, Mike Bisegli, was like, "You sound very different today." And I had to explain, and I tweeted out a photo. We're doing a national radio show, and this is the view. And it was just like the concrete on the floor, and there was nothing else around. It was a very dreary, dreary, dreary state. That did kind of reflect the world at the time. All righty. Talking about a crappy situation. Tua Tagovailoa and Brian Flores. So here's my thing. And maybe it's because I do a weekly spot on 560 WQAM in Miami with Mark Hochman, Channing Crowder, and Alejandro Solana. I have a really good understanding of the Miami Dolphins. So anything that Tua said the other day to the Dan Le Batard show shouldn't come to a surprise that was the relationship. Like, anyone that actually knows the Dolphins know that Brian Flores didn't want Tua Tagovailoa as his quarterback, and Tua and Brian Flores didn't have a good relationship. And if you need any public proof of that, how about when Mike McDaniel got there as the head coach and Tua talked about how supported he was because the first day on the job or the first week on the job, Mike McDaniel actually went to Tua's charity event. So as good of a coach as Brian Flores was, because he did a good job in Miami with basically not a lot to work with. Like, there was that one year they were supposed to be the first pick of the draft, right? It was the tank for Tua year, and then Joe Burrow emerged. And they ended up being the 5th pick of the draft. The fact that they were the 5th pick of the draft with their roster and how bare it was remarkable. But so Brian Flores was a good coach, but his problem was, and this will kill your coaching career, if you can't get along with your quarterback and you can't make it work with your quarterback, then the chances are the organization 9.9 times out of 10 are going to pick the quarterback over the coach. Like, hey, it's very similar. And I'm not saying that these guys hate each other. I don't think it's as nasty as Tua and Flores was, but Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts right now, like, I don't think there's an animosity, but there's clearly some bit of a contentious relationship. And if Nick Sirianni doesn't get on the same page with his quarterback, I guarantee this at the end of the year, the Eagles are going to pick Jalen Hurts over Nick Sirianni. So I was surprised that Tua went public with this just because it's so many years removed. And maybe he's feeling himself because he just got paid, right? And he just made the playoffs. But this is Tua Tagovailoa and the Dan Le Batard show ripping his old coach in Brian Flores.
If you woke up every morning and I told you you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad. And you hear it more and more. You start to actually believe that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear, or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself. And so that's sort of like what ended up happening. And it was, I mean, it's basically been, 2 years of training that out of not just me, but, a couple of the guys as well that have been here since my rookie year.
So clearly what Tua is saying is that Brian Flores and him didn't have a healthy relationship. It was unhealthy. And it impacted him mentally. That's what I take away from that. But the problem with Flores, where he won't look good in this, two things. One, even though I don't think Tua is a great quarterback, he has displayed that he could be a good quarterback. And the fact that Flores, when there's a lot worse quarterback situations around the league, couldn't coexist with Tua, and he wasn't even receptive to at least trying to make him a good quarterback, that's a problem. And it's a bad look on Brian Flores. But at the end of the day, you got to remember where Brian Flores was coming from. That's New England. And he knows what it's like to be around greatness. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and most Belichick assistants fail as head coaches. Most of them do. Because Bill could run a team the way that he wants to. Even though you had rings with Bill, you walk in and you have the Bill personality, or you try to, emulate Bill, and it's basically my way or the highway. The players are going to say, well, yeah, you basically just rode the coattails of Bill Belichick. Like, now you got to prove yourself. And Flores was a good coach. Wasn't a bad coach. But with Brian Flores, he may end up being right in terms of what he thought about Tua, that Tua isn't the guy. But still, Tua has proven that he's good. Not great, but good. And the fact that they couldn't find a way to at least be willing to get on the same page, or it seems like Flores wasn't, for a guy that has proven he could be good is what doesn't make Brian Flores look good in this spot. But with that being said, there's two sides to every story. So we want to give Brian Flores, obviously, the opportunity to respond. He is now the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, had a very good debut season with them last year as their DC, and Brian Flores is obviously asked about this earlier today at Vikings training camp.
Part of coaching is correcting. I'm always going to correct. I'm always going to have a high standard. Look, I've done a lot of reflecting and on this situation, and I think there's things that I could do better, for sure, and I've grown in that way, and I've tried to apply the things that I could do better and the things that I've learned, over the last 2-3 years. But I would say over the long haul, I've had a lot of great relationships over my 21-year career here in the league. But I'm also always looking to get better and involved. I'm open to getting better, and that's always always my mindset.
The words you used were terrible person. I'm just curious how that hit you when you saw it written.
Look, I'm human, so that hit me in a way that I wouldn't say it was positive for me, but at the same time, I've got to use that and say, hey, how can I grow from that situation and create a world where that's not the case, that anyone says that about Brian Flores.
I think that's the best way that Brian Flores could have handled that. He didn't totally bow down and say he was totally in the wrong, but he's talked about how he's reflected a lot and he could be better. And the horrible person thing, right, is not easy for anyone to take. And I thought he did the right job in not really defending himself, but alluding to that there's some truth in what Tua said. Because if he would have just came back and would have just took a shot at Tua, I don't think that's good for someone that aspires to be a head coach again. And with Brian Flores, there's going to be two pending things in every interview that he has from here on out. And I don't know if he'll ever have a head coaching job again. It's going to be because of the lawsuit, right? That's part of it. But then the other part, too, is, yeah, we know you're a good defensive coach. But how many good defensive coaches has alienated the offensive side of the ball, have had no relationship, and that fails them in this league? And that, I think, well, the lawsuit first, but then from a football matter, the biggest detractor with Brian Flores is going to be, can you relate? Can you have a healthy relationship while still being critical and still trying to do what's in the best interest of the team, but still connecting with the quarterback? And Tua, it had to be really personal. Because for Tua to bring it up after he's already won, where he's displayed he's been a good quarterback, he got the money, it seemed unnecessary, but I do think it speaks to how bad and how toxic that relationship was between the two. So those are kind of my thoughts on that. I thought it was, Stu, I hate because then it seems like I'm going after the victim in this case, which I'm not. Tua's allowed to express himself the way that he wants to. But it really shows how big of an issue that was, because it does feel unnecessary to bring up the Flores side of it. And for Tua, I think mentally it could be healing for him, but then also on the other side, you bring this unnecessary stuff into the relationship and then you don't succeed this year or you don't live up to that contract this year, then you'll have some people saying, well, maybe you took those victory laps a little bit too soon, trying to throw some salt in the wound of Brian Flores.
Yeah, it just puts an unnecessary target on his back, I think. There already is going to be a target on his back because of the deal he signed.
Yeah. And people just don't believe it, don't think he's great.
They don't, and this just adds fuel to the fire. And if, like you said, if he doesn't have a great season, they don't make the playoffs, he doesn't win a playoff game or have a big, statistical year, people are going to be like, was last year an anomaly? And is he not worth the money?
And just get ready. If you don't perform, people will use this very easily to throw this right back in your face. So I know that relationship wasn't good. And I think Flores was in the wrong here. But how much was it tough coaching? And then how much of it was Brian Flores just being kind of a jerk to Tua Tagovailoa? Because there's a difference in being a jerk to someone and then being tough on someone because you believe in them and you want to bring something else out of them. I've had those relationships before where I've been tough on people that I believe in because I think there's a different gear what they could bring. And I don't think tough love is the worst thing, but it could create a messy situation.
And to be fair to Tua, he was coached by Nick Saban, who is kind of known for being a tough head coach at times.
No, you're right.
Yeah, he's not an easy guy. He'll go hard on you if he has to.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
You have Hurts, and you have Tua right now. Both were coached by Nick Saban. And Flores, right, is a tougher coach. Him and Tua couldn't get along. And I think that's a credibility issue, right? Because look at Saban's credibility, and Flores, very good coach, but as a head coach, right, like what did you actually win? And then on the Jalen Hurts thing, it's not like Sirianni is giving tough coaching, right? He's like a doormat. But I think for Hurts, it's like, I know what the standard is, and you're not living up to what you could be. And maybe there's just a lack of respect there. All righty, we'll preview. I'll tell you this, Chargers don't have a concern at coach anymore because they got Jim Harbaugh. We'll preview the Chargers next with Chris Hare as we continue our NFL preview segment. But first, the biggest pro football contests in Vegas are back. Circa Survivor and Circa Million are now up to $60 million in guaranteed prizes. You have 2 ways to win and no rank. Circa Survivor contestants select one team each week with no point spread. And if the team loses or ties, the entry is eliminated. You can only pick each team once in a season. Last the longest to win it all with $10 million guaranteed. In Circa Million, make 5 picks against the spread each week for your share of $6 million guaranteed. Quarterly and full season payouts. The entry that does the worst even wins $100,000. How about that? You must register at Circa Sportsbook in Nevada, Las Vegas, Henderson, or Sparks, Reno. And we are heading out to Circa Las Vegas this week, and we'll be doing our show live from the beautiful Circa Resort on August 22nd and August 23rd. Entries are now open and closed September 7th at 2 p.m. Visit circasports.com for details and rules. Must be 21 and present in Nevada. Paid for by Circa Sports.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Football season is right around the corner.
Holding himself, runs to the left, he's to the 5, Lamar's in, touchdown Ravens! They're going to have a championship game in Baltimore because the Hayes of the Barn!
Will it be your team's year to hoist the Lombardi?
In the shotgun, Mahomes. He runs and he throws, caught, touchdown! It's caught! Hardman caught the ball! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won! The entire bench empties! Chasing Mahomes in the end zone. Their third Super Bowl in 5 years.
We preview all 32 teams right here on the Zach Gelb Show. Los Angeles Chargers.
All right, time to preview the Chargers. We're welcoming Chris Hare, who is a KCAL anchor and reporter. Also does a great job hosting the Chargers Weekly podcast, and he's kind enough to join us right now. Chris, I know it's been a while, but thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
Zach, always a pleasure, man. Excited. We're getting closer and closer. Can't come soon enough.
So I'm a huge Jim Harbaugh fan. I loved him with the 49ers. Obviously, loved with what he did at Michigan. I have a ton of respect for him. As much respect as I have for Jim Harbaugh, I was also just like on the completely other end, just so frustrated and done with Brandon Staley before last year even started. We know Staley out, Harbaugh in. What do you think Jim Harbaugh will immediately bring, though, to the Chargers with his experience?
Toughness, physicality, and a culture that I think is just very rare in the NFL. I mean, this is a guy, you said it, Zach, he's done it at every level and everywhere he's gone. So this isn't just a college coach coming off a national championship. This is a guy who went to an AFC championship game as a quarterback, who went to a Super Bowl with the 49ers. He's immediately brought this kind of breath of fresh air. It's going to be a physical and tough team, though, and I think that they're going to lead with that. They brought in guys who I would say are Harbaugh guys, a lot of guys from the Ravens. You talk about that backfield with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and Hayden Hurst, Bradley Bozeman, guys on offense that kind of know that Harbaugh style and way of playing. And, defensively, they have an embarrassment of riches on the edge with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Tuli Tuipulotu and Bud Dupree. That's going to be the strength of the defense. They've been getting their hands on a lot of footballs during joint practices and training camp practices. So I'm just excited to see what it looks like because we truly won't know. I mean, preseason's so deceiving. Justin Herbert's not out there, so obviously, you've seen kind of the issues they've had at quarterback, the backup quarterback, 2s and 3s, the first 2 weeks of the preseason. But once Justin Herbert is out there, I'm fascinated to see what this offense is going to look like.
And I know Herbert is now back after dealing with the foot injury. He's returned to practice. Is there no doubt in your mind, right? A few weeks out from the season, he should be good to go week 1 coming up in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'd say pretty good sign. They said it, 2 weeks in a boot, then ramp up to play. And, you have 2.5 weeks until the opener now. He's out of the boot. He's practicing. So I have no doubts that he'll be under center against Gardner Minshew and the Raiders week 1 at SoFi Stadium. And you know what? The one thing that I think was tough for this offense the last couple of weeks was you have so many guys on the outside who are brand new, right? Ladd McConkey's a rookie. DJ Chark came in. So, he's throwing to new guys. Hayden Hurst, Will Dissly, all these guys on the outside are new. J.K. Dobbins expected to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. So not having that time on task with some of the receivers, I think was really the only negative to these past 2 weeks. Obviously, you want your franchise to get the requisite rest, but the way he's picked up this offense so quickly, I really wasn't worried about Justin so much as just the overall chemistry of the offense. So now they have to play a little bit of catch up in an effort to get right for the Raiders week 1.
4 years into this league for Justin Herbert, I know now is the start of year number 5. He's been a good quarterback. A lot of teams would love to have their hands on him, but I don't know if it's unintentional or not, but he's also been kind of polarizing with how people talk about him and how people view him and what his ceiling is. Bringing in Harbaugh, hey, there's no more excuses. That's as good of a coach with what he's done in the NFL and college. What do you think this marriage and this partnership can be with Jim Harbaugh and what it will do for Justin Herbert?
You know, Zach, one of the quotes that really stood out to me at the beginning of all this when they hired Greg Roman, he simply said, imagine Justin Herbert with a running game. And that is something that he has not had. This has been one of the worst rushing offenses in football the last couple of years. They have not been able to really establish anything on the ground. And you know that that's what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. He wants to lead with the running game. That's why he drafted Joe Alt to pair with Rashawn Slater probably for the next decade. And bring in 2 bruising running backs. Establish the run, get Justin Herbert in manageable positions. And yes, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are no longer here, but just the chemistry that Justin has put together with Ladd McConkey in this short time, with Joshua Palmer, who's kind of been in this with this organization for a few years, the way he can use the tight end. We've seen him use the tight end in the past, whether it was Hunter Henry or Jared Cook. Now you bring in 2 guys in Hayden Hurst and Will Dissly. I think you're expecting J.K. Dobbins. If he can be the guy that he was his rookie year, averaging around 6 yards a carry, that's going to make this offense very, very interesting. I don't think, if we're looking at it from like a fantasy perspective, I look at this as a spread the wealth offense. I don't really know who the wide receiver 1 is at this point. It could be McConkey. It could be DJ Chark. It could be Joshua Palmer. Who knows? And I think any given Sunday, Justin will kind of elevate the play of the guys on the outside.
Going into this conversation, I know what Harbaugh likes to do. And you look at this offensive line, on paper, it's impressive. We know what the quarterback can be. My biggest concern, though, knowing how much Harbaugh likes to run, were the running backs on the roster. It seems like you're pretty confident with the group that they have in the backfield.
I think so. I think so. We have not seen J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards at a preseason game, and I think that's for a reason.
Yeah. Nor should you.
Nor should you, right? But, one of the things I was concerned with was, okay, at the beginning of training camp, are we going to see J.K. Dobbins? Are they going to just put him on the PUP list and kind of ramp him up? We talked to him day 1 of camp. He said he's ready to go. He's 100%, and he was. I mean, he was out there from the first training camp practice. So I don't see any restrictions on J.K. Dobbins. And, Zach, I just go back to his rookie year and what he did when he's healthy. Now, if he's not healthy, then it changes a little bit. Gus Edwards is a huge back, and he has a track record of success with the Ravens. But there's a couple other guys on this roster. And so he was hurt for a lot of training camp, but he flashed on Saturday. His name's Kimani Vidal, a 6th-round running back out of Troy. First 2 rushes of the game, like 10 yards, 12 yards. A smaller back, wears the number 30 like Austin Eckler, 5'8". But I do think that the way that this offense is constructed, a lot of guys could touch the football. But if J.K. Dobbins is healthy, a lot of people have said he's as good as anybody in football. And, you have to assume that your guys are going to be healthy entering week 1.
Yeah, I look at Ladd McConkey. I think he's just a solid football player. I don't know if he could be great, but I do think he's underappreciated. I think he will impress some people this year. Palmer, I'm a big fan of. I go back to Quentin Johnston, though. This is a guy who was a first-round pick a year ago, had a big career at TCU. We know they got into the national championship game. No more Mike Williams, no more Keenan Allen. What are your expectations, Chris Hare and Quentin Johnston, as we enter this year?
Well, you hope he takes a big step because his rookie year was very difficult. And, keep in mind, it was a bad year all around for the Chargers and their offense. You lose Corey Linsley, you lose Mike Williams, and there was really no consistency throughout the entire offense. I do think that Jim Harbaugh, one of the things that he does really, really well is he instills confidence in his guys. And you saw Quentin on Saturday, drew an illegal contact penalty down the field, was wide open, overthrown. made a couple other nice snags in the game. And that's what you want to see, because his hands, that was the issue last year. He dropped some balls he just should not have dropped. So the fact that they're sticking with him and that there's competition in that room too, Zach, I think that's a big deal as well. Like, you're not counting on Quentin to be your number 1 receiver or your number 2 receiver, frankly. I mean, right now, I would probably say he's number 3 or 4 on the depth chart in terms of just pecking order at the wide receiver position. I think you could argue Ladd and Josh Palmer are 1 and 2, maybe DJ Chark in there, Quentin. So if Quentin just plays a little bit better and they put him in better situations as a receiver, I think he was doing some things last year just was not part of his game. He's great after the catch. So getting him in situations where he can actually use his skill set, use his talents, and, Justin Herbert's going to find these guys. He has a track record of elevating the play at wide receiver. It wasn't just Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. It was guys like Tyron Johnson his rookie year, Jalen Guyton. Justin is going to find you, and I can't pinpoint any receiver that's going to command a double team in this offense. Justin will find you. Just get open.
Wrap it up with Chris Hare. 2 more questions for him as we preview the Chargers. 9 games in 2023, 5 games in 2022. Is there concern that the elite days, because of the lack of health, maybe are over for Joey Bosa?
Well, you certainly hope not. Now we don't have a great gauge as to what Joey's specific injury is and the timetable for his return to practice. I think he was not practicing today as well. So, listen, if Joey's healthy and Khalil's healthy, one of the things about Khalil Mack is he's been healthy his entire tenure with the Chargers, hasn't missed a game. And Joey's big regret is not being able to stay healthy on the other side of him. Now, you have a heck of an insurance policy with Tuli Tuipulotu and Bud Dupree, who I think could start on probably 25 of the teams in the league right now, no problem. Tuli, I think, is in store for a Pro Bowl caliber season. But just imagine what Jesse Minter can do with those guys coming off the edge. Derwin's ability to move all around the field. Put Derwin in that category as one of the best pass rushers on the team too. They could do a lot of things up front. I hope Joey is healthy, because when Joey is healthy, he is disruptive. He's a force in the running game. He gets his hands on footballs. And we've been waiting for 2 years to see a complete season with Mack and Bosa together. You hope as a Chargers fan that you get that this year.
Last thing I'll ask you, we know the Chiefs are going to win this division. Until something else happens, they're the team everyone is going to pick, and they should. When you look at the second spot in the division, if you take it from a Chargers perspective, Chris Hare, who do you think concerns you more and maybe being that second team and maybe finishing in front of the Chargers? Is it the Broncos or is it the Raiders when you look at both those teams, in your opinion?
It's a great question. I would probably say the pecking order. Just looking at it right now and not knowing how this season is going to shake out, I say everybody's chasing Kansas City. I think the Chargers are the second best team in the division, simply because of the quarterback and the head coach. I would probably put Denver at 3 because Sean Payton's track record of success. It looks like Bo Nix is somebody they may have hit on. And then the Raiders, it's the quarterback, right? You got Minshew and O'Connell, and Minshew's going to be the starter right now, but they have some players on defense. I would not be surprised if in the next couple of years, Jim Harbaugh finds a way to really put this roster together in his likeness. Keep in mind, this is going to be a couple of years to really make sure that this roster is exactly what he's looking for. But you'll see it this year. I have no doubt that you're going to see a much tougher team, a much more disciplined team, a team that doesn't make mistakes in the fourth quarter, and a quarterback who, if you give him some time and you give him a running game, who knows? Maybe we're talking about Justin Herbert in a completely different light at the end of the year.
You can watch him on KCAL. Also does a great job on the Chargers Weekly podcast. He's Chris Hare, kind enough to preview the Chargers season with us. Chris, thank you. Be well.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you.
There you go. Chris Hare joining us. We will take a break. When we come on back, let's actually pick up where that conversation kind of left off. And that was talking about that second team in the AFC West, because you know that the Chiefs are going to be number 1. Could the Broncos be making a push? Did we maybe underestimate the Broncos? I know I said a few weeks ago, hey, you look at the worst 3 teams in the league this year, it's going to be the Patriots, it's going to be the Panthers, and probably the Broncos. Are we getting a little bit too crazy, though, already with the Bo Nix hype after 2 preseason games. We'll talk a little bit about the young quarterback play around the league when we come on back. Update time first, though. Here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford returned to drills today after battling a sore hamstring, while Justin Herbert back with the Chargers in practice after missing 3 weeks with plantar fasciitis. And the Bears announced that Caleb Williams will sit out Thursday's preseason finale. Overlooked in the National League are the Milwaukee Brewers, who have quietly posted 73 wins and have an 11-game lead in the NL Central. The Brew Crew has been overshadowed by the Dodgers and Phillies, the wild card races as well. They take a 5-game winning streak into tonight's series opener against the Cardinals. First-year manager Pat Murphy said he's benefited by a standard set by the veterans of this team long ago.
Because of guys like Yelly, they've built a culture in there that says, okay, let's win tonight somehow, whatever we got to do, This guy's not playing good, or this guy's not doing this, or this guy makes an error, or this guy, doesn't pitch well. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep pecking away.
The aforementioned Phillies are in Atlanta with the Braves, a game and a half up on the Mets for the final wild card. The Mets host the Orioles after taking the series opener, and that loss for Baltimore dropped them a half game behind the Yankees in the AL East. The Yankees will host the AL Central leading Guardians. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam and just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com, not available in all states. My golf game, by the way, has been improving. I've taken some lessons recently, and I'm starting to hit the ball a lot farther than I have and get the ball like really high up in the air, which I've been working on. I'm not going to pretend like I am the greatest athlete in the world, but in this building, I do have more athletic ability than most. Obviously Boomer Esiason and Tiki Barber have the most. Keith McPherson played college football as well. But I have a pretty good athletic ability. There are some people around here that have zero athletic ability. And some people have no shame in their zero amount of athletic ability, and I give them at least credit for that. I just saw a video during the break of Peter Schwartz, who tweeted out, I guess his son has picked up golf. I know Pete hates golf. So I guess he went to the driving range. He's got to just put the club down. He doesn't even do a quarter of a golf swing, and it looks like he has either a wood or a driver in his hand. It's a little bit of a grainy video. Now, you know how, remember, I think Pete had to have a hip replacement, or he broke his hip. Do you know how he broke his hip, Stu? And this illustrates the lack of athletic ability of Peter Schwartz.
I don't. This can't be good.
So he was actually, I think he was doing my updates. I want to say it was either, was that weekend overnights, or maybe it was 6 to 10 and he was filling in. And I love Pete. But he was playing on the beach with his kids. And he went to either snap the football to his son or hand the football off to his son, and he said he just slowly felt his hip basically fall down the side of his body, and that's how he ended up breaking his hip. So, flag football, and, there is no, for example, my brother-in-law is not a good golfer, but he's a baseball player. So, the first time we went golfing, and I don't know the last time he golfed, at least he had an athletic swing. And I'm not Tiger Woods out on the golf course. All right? I'm not Scotty Scheffler. But, geez Louise, this is one of the more unathletic things I've ever seen from a human being. At least just take a full swing. It's like grandpa swinging, he takes a quarter of a swing, not even, and then whoop. So, not a good look for Peter Schwartz. I also saw that Peter Schwartz was at Fanatics Fest, by the way. Did you hear he almost got kicked out of Fanatics Fest?
Stop. He did not.
So I guess they have a WWE type of entrance. So you get to pick one of the fighters or one of the wrestlers, and you walk out to their entrance. So if memories, Triple H right? He puts the water in his mouth and then shoots out the water, right, and spits it into the air. So Pete picked the Triple H music and tried to bring the water bottle out there, and then you see this like little security lady run over and grab the water bottle out of his hand and can't tell him that you're allowed to do that. Like, don't get me, Fanatics Fest look cool. I kind of feel as if you're going to do all the exhibits and everything, really should be for the kids, not like Peter Schwartz. But Peter is like basically one big kid. He must have been in heaven. Hey, it's Peter Schwartz loves Fanatics Fest as a fat kid loves cake. That's what I would say. And he was having fun. And of course he got it for free. Of course. Anywho, let's get to the young quarterback play in the league. I put a poll question out there, and I put it out there yesterday. And here are the results today. Which rookie QB will have the best debut season in 2024? Now, when you look at the options, Michael Penix Jr., I only had 4 options. So I didn't put Michael Penix Jr. on there because he's not expected to play this year. And I didn't put J.J. McCarthy on there because his season is already over with the meniscus injury. So I put Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Drake May. Now, when you look at the 4, we know Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are the week 1 starters. I would be shocked if Bo Nix is not starting week 1. I said that from the jump. Like, you're not going with Jarrett Stidham. You're not going with Zach Wilson. Like, give me a break. Those 2 guys aren't starting. But how about the hype train recently, Stu? And I think out of all the players in preseason, no one's preseason performance has benefited them more than Bo Nix. When Bo Nix was picked 12th overall in the draft, everyone was like, what the heck is Sean Payton seeing that I'm not seeing? Right? And don't get me wrong. He did not perform well at Auburn. And then at Oregon the last 2 years, he was lights out. But I never looked at Bo Nix and said, okay, that's a guy that in the NFL has an elite ceiling. Now, I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. But in 2 preseason games, he's completing 70% of his passes. I read on NFL.com that he's led 6 scoring drives, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and is showing some mobility. And with the quick passes, how Sean will get him to move around, instantly now there is buzz around Bo. And in this poll, he's the second place option right now. Caleb Williams is 1 at 33.3% on which rookie QB will have the best debut season in 2024. Second is Bo Nix, 30.5. Jaden Daniels is at 26.2. And then how the mighty have fallen. My Patriots with Drake May at 9.9%. Now, I understand Broncos fans, ever since Peyton Manning has left and he retired, they've had nothing to enjoy at the quarterback position. So the bar is really low. But think about how low this has been, Stu. Where the bar is so low that you go from being iffy on the draft pick to now you have a lot of Broncos fans believing after 2 preseason games. And quite frankly, I'm not ready to say Bo Nix is going to accomplish this or he's going to accomplish that, but I can't really fault the fans for their premature excitement because that's how bad, not bad, dreadful, putrid, rancid, terrible the quarterback position has been since number 18 said goodbye to Denver.
Yeah, I don't blame them at all. I do think from like a national media perspective, I need to see more than 2 preseason games.
But
I can't
the
get there.
There's Bo buzz.
There's a lot
of buzz.
I think thinking that he's going to have a better rookie season than Jaden Daniels to me is insane.
I agree with you.
I think Daniels might have the best of the 4, including Caleb Williams. Might. I'm not saying definitely, but I think him and Caleb are on hot takes too. I think him and Caleb are on a different level. I don't think, no offense to Drake May, and I don't think Bo Nix are either of them are there, and I don't think Penix is going to give you the playing time.
So I look at those 4 quarterbacks because, right, McCarthy season's already over. Michael Penix Jr. by design isn't going to start this year. The highest expectations I have for Caleb Williams for the quarterbacks in year 1 is Caleb Williams. You look at the surrounding environment around him, there's no reason why this guy shouldn't be able to lead the Bears to the playoffs this year. With the wide receivers that you got too, you don't only have Keenan Allen, you don't only have DJ Moore, you got Roma Dunze too, and Cole Kmet. Like, there are really good options. You have a multitude of options at the wide receiver position and a good enough offensive line. Not great, but good, like solid. So there's really no reason why Caleb Williams isn't number 1. But for Jaden Daniels, I don't want to say it's Lamar Jackson, but the idea of a guy that's an elite runner, and I think Jaden Daniels is a better thrower of the football than Lamar. And I'm one of the bigger Lamar supporters there are, so don't take this out of context and go, oh, Gelb's just hating on Lamar Jackson, which I know a lot of you jackasses do. All right? Jaden Daniels, I would go Caleb Williams 1, Jaden Daniels 2. The question is it Bo or Drake May for the third spot? Like, Drake May, to me, has a higher ceiling. I just don't know when Drake May is going to get on the field, which actually could make him the number 3 option here. Because you know Bo's going to be the week 1 starter. And I look at Denver, they don't really got a lot. They got the coach, but they don't really got a lot on the offensive side of the ball. So that's what makes this impressive. And it's like, oh, who are you playing against? That he's at least looked the part. But also, when you're in your mid-20s already, you should be able to look the part. It's not like this is a guy that is 21. Bo Nix has a lot of experience. So I'm just fascinated by what the ceiling is for Bo Nix. And I'm not, after 2 preseason games, I didn't think he was a franchise quarterback or elite quarterback when they drafted him. So I'm not going to change that. But it just shows you how quickly the perception can change about someone. And now we all expect a lot out of these rookie quarterbacks, even though Bryce Young flopped last year. But because of C.J. Stroud turned a disastrous situation into a positive one, people now are going to expect right away quarterbacks get in and quarterbacks going to ball out. So which rookie QBs will have the best debut season in 2024? Out of the 4 options we threw out there, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Drake May. 9.9%, Drake May in 4th. 3rd place, Jaden Daniels, 26.2%. A whopping 30.5% for Bo Nix, and then 33.3% with Caleb Williams. I go Caleb Williams. And Stu, you're going maybe Jaden Daniels, is that right?
I'll go Jaden Daniels, yeah.
Okay.
I will.
How about that? We'll take a break. When we come on back, a situation that we thought was better may not be that much better. We'll tell you what I'm talking about when we come on back next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will do a little college football coming up in 20 minutes from now. How far you're willing to go with a bunch of teams that we will talk about. I'll give you how far I'm willing to go with those teams. I will talk about the Steelers and their lack of optimism that they're providing you with their quarterback position. But first, we have a little breaking news on the Zach Gelb Show.
We have breaking news on the Zach Gelb Show.
Stu, it has to do with Brandon Ayuk. I'll ask you this. Do you think this is big news, or do you think it's a little bit of news? Just happened a minute ago.
A little bit of news.
Little bit, not big.
That's right, not massive.
I feel like most of these reports, right, with Brandon Ayuk,
I'm just kind of going with what's happened so far in this story,
have been very, very, very small. Now, it's not big news. I wish it was big news, because I'm sick of this stupid discussion about Brandon Ayuk. But according to Jordan Schultz, sources, the 49ers and wide receiver Brandon Ayuk had another meeting yesterday, and talks continue to progress on a long-term contract extension. There has been movement on a deal, but there are some minor details that still need to be ironed out with ownership approval. There's your breaking news. So basically the same as it's been for the last 2 weeks. Has there ever been in sports, Stu, a bigger waste of everybody else's time than this Brandon Ayuk contract situation? All right, first the Patriots offer $32 million a year. I don't want to go to New England. Then the Browns are a potential destination. You could get Amari Cooper for a Brandon Ayuk trade, but then it seemed like the Browns weren't rushing to get that deal done, or maybe they wouldn't give Ayuk a big contract. It was like, okay, it would be the same thing for Ayuk in a worse spot. All right, the Steelers, they really want him. They have a deal basically agreed upon, but it's only agreed upon one way, because even though the Steelers think the Niners will accept it, the Niners haven't accepted it yet. And the longer and longer this goes, the more and more I'll keep on saying this, I don't even think it's a question now. It's not a matter of if he gets a deal done with the Niners, it's just a matter of when. Like, I don't think how any logical person or any sane person right now, Stu, could actually believe with how long this is dragged out and how the Niners have displayed they are willing to get uncomfortable with players. Right? Trent Williams is in the middle of a holdout right now. We saw Debo, and that be like a messy situation. It got resolved. The Niners are willing to take the onslaught of speculation and criticism and, oh, they're not taking care of the player, and they're fine with taking the bullets, taking the shots, and they know they have time on their side. And I respect what the Niners have done. The Niners could have said, bleep it a few weeks ago and go, we'll just trade you the Steelers. We're sick and tired of this headache. But they've said, you're still under contract with us. And unless we're able to get everything we want, we're not trading you. Because the Niners are one of the few teams in the league that actually have Super Bowl or bust expectations. It's not, you make an NFC championship game, let's pat you on the ass, San Francisco. They've done that. It's not, you're up by 10 in a Super Bowl and you blow the lead. We'll pat you on the ass, San Francisco. No. They've done that twice. So it's about putting the best product on the field. And the only way a deal I really think would have got done is if it was with Cleveland. Because you'd be getting a very good wide receiver in Amari Cooper. The Pats weren't giving you what you needed. The Steelers weren't giving you what you needed. So really, Brandon Ayuk is eventually going to get what he wants. But Stu, he doesn't really have any leverage here. Like, he'll get his deal. He'll eventually, win. But the San Francisco 49ers have basically showed we don't really care if you're unhappy. We don't really care that you're not fine with our timeline. Because if they did, they would have already shipped him out. And that's why I think it's almost impossible now, with how long that this is gone, that this doesn't get solved and this isn't a done deal within the next 2 weeks. But I feel like every update just keeps on making me think more and more and more that this is going to get done, because it's always like, there's minor detail. How many more T's do you have to cross and how many more I's do you need to dot? Like, you got to be close here. And ultimately, like what I've been saying throughout most of this process, I think almost every day but one, that he's going to get a deal of $28 or $29 million a year. So whether it's the guarantees or if it's outs or if it's, how you spread it, all that, I don't care. That stuff doesn't excite me. What I think football fans want to know, and we talk to football fans, right? I don't need to go into all the contracts and the minutia. That stuff never, I think, never makes for good radio. What the guy or gal sitting at home wants to know, that is a Niner fan, is will I have Brandon Ayuk? And I can't see a way where Brandon Ayuk is not playing for the 49ers this year.
I totally agree. It's definitely trending that way. I thought for a little bit the Steelers might have been an option. And I think with you, the Browns also might have been an option. I never really bought into the Patriots side of it.
Well, if it was truly all about the money, it would have been New England.
Right.
Because New England is giving you an offer that was $32 million a year. But since he said no there, even though he's ultimately going to get what he wants, which is you stay in San Francisco and you get paid more than what they were originally offering you, which was $26 million a year, he kind of lost his leverage there. And that was like just another thing where it's like, okay, San Francisco, you'll get rewarded. You ultimately get your guy for the long term if you just continue to be uncomfortable, because he already showed, and New England, then they saw the signs, they're like, we're out. They know they knew they were getting used there to just drive up the price, and they gave a more than respectable, they gave a great offer to Brandon Ayuk. So once you turn down that deal, you can't tell me that it's all about the money, because if it was, you would have gone to New England, and you wouldn't care who your quarterback is, you wouldn't care if you're in a winning situation or not. The other options, we'll get to the Steelers QB situation in a second. You know what? I'll say this right now, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, Stu. Even with the unknown of Drake May, and it's been documented, I haven't been the biggest Drake May guy, but the unknown of Drake May is a better option than what the Steelers have at quarterback right now. Because Russell Wilson, he hasn't clearly displayed that he's the guy in Pittsburgh. And Justin Fields, I know that Chicago didn't put him in a great position, but there are serious questions and doubts about the quarterback Justin Fields could be. Like, there's a chance that if Brandon Ayuk got traded to the Steelers, that he turns into like Davante Adams or any of the other disgruntled wide receivers, that they get their money, but they go to a spot, and then a year later, what they thought the spot was, it's just a cluster bleep at the quarterback position. Like, there's a great chance next year we look at the Steelers and it's probably in all likelihood the case that we look at the Steelers and we're like, we don't have a damn clue what's going on at their quarterback position. Now, Russell Wilson, I wouldn't say he's the long-term answer. And Justin Fields, you can't say he's the long-term answer. So it's as if Brandon Ayuk this entire time, he's wanted to be in San Francisco, but he also wanted his deal when he wanted it. He played the market, and the Niners were fine with him playing the market, right? They said, go talk to teams, we'll work out a deal, and you try to get your contract. Well, in New England, you didn't want the $32 million a year. Cleveland obviously wasn't willing to give you what you want, because I think that's a team that they really would have got the deal done with. And then it's, the Steelers, I guess they'll give them the money, but what are they really giving the Niners back where it doesn't hurt the Niners heading into this season? Because draft capital to the Niners really means nothing. You got to be in the player business when you have a Super Bowl window. So I'll say that's 100% in my opinion. I don't. The only way I see Ayuk not playing week 1, I think the ship has already sailed, is if Cleveland just calls up and they said, okay, we're going to give him what he wants, $30 million a year, $29 million a year, and we'll give you Amari Cooper. But you start to think, like, isn't that too late to do that now if you're Cleveland? Because this is a big year for Deshaun Watson. This is a prove-it year for Deshaun Watson. Could you imagine tomorrow they send Amari Cooper to San Francisco and it's like, Brandon Ayuk, you got a week and a half to get comfortable, learn the playbook. So I think here's what I'll say to our NFL insiders. Schefter, Rappaport, Pelissero, Glazer, Schultz, whoever. Don't give me any news on Brandon Ayuk until the news is he's agreed to a deal or he's getting traded. Because, I like Jordan Schultz. But what is the real update here? He had another meeting yesterday, and talks continue to progress on a long-term contract extension. There has been movement on a deal, but there are some minor details that still need to be ironed out with ownership approval. There's no update. I'm sorry. That's just putting something out there because you were told something, but in reality, it's no different from... There's no difference from Monday to Tuesday. There was no difference from Sunday to Tuesday. There was no difference from Saturday to Tuesday, where we currently sit today. So just get the deal done already, because we know that's where it's trending. All righty. Let's talk about the Steelers. Here is Adam Schefter on the ESPN on the Steelers QB competition.
Either of those guys could take the job right now, grab hold to it, and be the starter. The fact that has not happened is not great, but it's not like Mike Tomlin is saying this is disappointing. It's really just he hasn't fully been able to evaluate his quarterback position. They don't have an answer yet. Not that they won't, they just don't. And look, this also is shaping up to be a situation where the Steelers could end up at some point during the season playing both of these quarterbacks if one doesn't stand out.
So that was obviously Ian Rappaport. I was looking for the Schefter sound. If we get it, let me know. But anyway, the point is, we just talked about Bo Nix. And Bo Nix with the Broncos and how his stock has improved in 2 preseason games. So when we look at the Steelers, think about where we were 2 months ago with the Steelers. The Steelers had a dreadful quarterback situation a year ago. Kenny Pickett, the former first-round pick, was clearly not the guy. And then in this offseason, did they improve their quarterback room? Yes. But I've talked about this a lot with teams' offensive lines. Where, like the Jets, for example. The Jets improved their offensive line. But it was at such a low point, you could improve your offensive line and still not have a good offensive line. And that's what has transpired here with the Steelers' quarterback position. There's no doubt about it. They improved their quarterback room from a year ago, bringing in Russell Wilson, bringing in Justin Fields. But do they have a good quarterback room? I don't think so. And that offensive line, even though I've been told, right, the offensive line's better in Pittsburgh this year, that offensive line is still not good. And yes, you got Pickens, he's very good. Yes, you got Warren. Yes, you got Harris to run the football. But they still have an offensive line issue and a quarterback problem. Because Russell Wilson is far from his days of being an elite quarterback. I think he could still have a few good games, but in the totality of a season, he's not good anymore. and everyone keeps on selling me on the hope of Justin Fields. Justin Fields has to get an opportunity, and then he has to run with that opportunity. And I said it a few weeks ago, I don't think this is going to happen. I do believe Russell Wilson will be the week 1 starter, but if I was making the call, I'd start Justin Fields. I would. I think there's a higher upside with Justin Fields. But I still don't look at the Steelers and say, wow, I'm blown away by this team. Now, they got a really good roster. Defensively, with Watt and Highsmith, they are really damn good defensively. They just got to stay healthy. Offensively, there are concerns on the line. They got a solid running back room. They got good wide receivers. But you still have zero confidence in the quarterback position. The problem with the Steelers is that they never bottom out. Like, I saw it with New England. New England made the playoffs in Mac Jones' rookie season. The roster was terrible. Bill Belichick did a phenomenal job coaching that year. Even the following season, it was a bottom 5 roster, and they were 8-9. And if they would have won that last game of the season and they lost, that's why they were 8-9, they would have made the playoffs. And then it bottomed out in New England. It just never bottoms out in Pittsburgh because their roster, it was much better, and they have more talent than what the Patriots have had the last few years. So even if the Steelers are not what people thought they could have been 2 months ago, you know, at worst, they're going to be, 8-9, 9-8? Like, they have that much talent. I know their division is a pain in the ass. It's a phenomenal division. But the way that I look at these teams right now, Bengals 1, Ravens 2, Browns 3, and the Steelers 4th. And I've been tossing and turning Steelers and Browns through the offseason, and I don't even love Deshaun Watson. But this Steelers quarterback room, I think we're becoming a victim of, okay, you were living in such a bad house, right? You upgraded and you bought a better house, but it still doesn't mean you're living in a really good home. And that's what's happened with the Steelers. They were in a terrible spot at the quarterback position. They've improved the room, but it's not a great room. It's not even a good room. So when I look at the quarterback position, they're still not up to par on where they need to be. And now you have line issues as well. And what we were sold, I think, is really a bill of false goods. I do. You know, I talked to Jerome Bettis. Oh, they finally got the line. I have big questions about Broderick Jones, right? You know, you heard look at what the Steelers did. And I was even part of this problem. Look at the Steelers at the quarterback position. Does anyone go into the season having big expectations for Russell Wilson? Does anyone have big expectations for Justin Fields? I don't know. You know, I'm not saying it's the same as this, but let me just throw the Commanders out there. When Ron Rivera brought in Carson Wentz, it was like, look how bad our quarterback room was. Look what Carson Wentz did 3 years ago when he looked like he was an MVP, and there was excitement. I had Commanders fans telling me I was a moron for telling you that Carson Wentz wasn't going to work with the Commanders. And look what happened. So in the NFL, this happens all the time because it's rooted in a good spot. We're passionate. We want to see these teams do well. And we live and die by these teams. But when you have a bad room and you make improvements, it does not mean it's a good room. Like, Stu, you know this better than anybody. Derek Carr was a fine quarterback, solid quarterback. They got rid of him because they knew he's just good, he's average, he's not great. And look how dreadful it's been for the Raiders. And what? The best QB in your lifetime for your team when you were Rich Gannon, right? When he won MVP?
Right. Absolutely Rich Gannon, yes.
So it's like, look how bad those rooms have been throughout the years. Even with having a guy like Carr who stuck around the league for a while with the Raiders. I know he's with the Saints now. And the Raiders are now in that process where it's just bad QB after. Gardner Minshew's your starting quarterback. Everyone loves Gardner Minshew. Fan favorite everywhere he goes. Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Philadelphia. Now with the people love him. Easy guy to root for. But he's not a long-term quarterback in this league. Aiden O'Connell, not a long-term quarterback. So now it's about finding that next guy. And like, if the Raiders draft a QB next year, Stu, it doesn't matter who they draft, you're going to get excited because of how much torture you've had to be through and you've been through. You look at the Steelers, after Big Ben, even towards the end of Big Ben's career, we all know his arm was shot. Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges, Kenny Pickett. And now it's like, oh, they got Russell Wilson. He was good like 3 years ago. Oh, they got Justin Fields. Oh, the Bears messed him up. He'll be good. And through the offseason and so far the preseason, everyone's like, ooh, this line stinks. Ooh, this quarterback room is dreadful. It was John Madden who said, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you have none. Man, Pittsburgh, everyone said, oh, this room's really good. Oh, this room is really improved. Yes, it improved, but it's still not a good room. And as we enter this season, the late, great John Madden couldn't be more right. Couldn't be more right. The Steelers quarterback situation is going to be a painful one to watch this year. And if the offensive line continues to look like this and truly has not got that much better as people praised it to be or made it out to be, whew, this could be the year Mike Tomlin's under 500. That team is really damn good on paper in terms of the defense, and you got Pickens. Like I said this, they're never going to bottom out. But for the Steelers bottoming out, it's not going like 4 wins. It's not going 5 wins. That's not going to happen. It's like going 8 and 9. And probably when the offseason happened, I looked at the Steelers like, yeah, they wild card team, probably. They're not going to win a playoff game. You know, what else is new? Now I look at the Steelers and it's just like how deep the AFC is. If they make the postseason this year, even making it last year with no quarterback play, I get that too. I would be surprised. I'd be mildly surprised if the Steelers make the postseason this year. And maybe this is the year where it starts to go the other way, where they start to actually reflect the problems that are happening with this team. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll talk some college football next. Stu's got a bunch of teams for me. I will tell you how far I'm willing to go with those teams and what their apex is on the expectations entering this season.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. It is the Infinity Sports Network. We did this with the NFL last week. Now we'll do it with college football. Stu will give me a team in college football, and I will say, if everything goes right for that team this year, how far am I willing to go with that team? Stu, you can take it away.
All right, so the first one, the defending national champions, Michigan Wolverines.
I'm going to say one win in the college football playoff. You know Sharon Moore is going to have a good offensive line. That defense, led by Mason Graham and Will Johnson, is going to be one of the better defenses in the country. And it's unfortunate Rod Moore is out for the year with that injury that he did suffer, because Rod Moore is a really good player, and we saw what he did up against Ohio State. But that defense is as good as it gets in college football. The million-dollar question is, what is the quarterback, Alex Orji? And I look at Alex Orji, that Texas game week 2 is going to be enormous. You know, I have 10,000 weddings. It's crazy that I have to go to. And I've had a bunch this summer. I think I have 2 more before the end of the year. And one of those is on that Saturday, and it's at night. So I'm kind of hoping Michigan, Texas is like big noon kickoff. Well, it's Big Ten now, so is that on CBS? I'm all messed up now with everything.
It's so confusing.
I'm hoping it's an early game. I don't know if we have a time yet for that game. I want to say it was 12 o'clock. I remember seeing this. Yeah, it's 12 p.m., Texas and Michigan. That's a huge statement for Michigan, because Texas is one of the better teams in the country. But for Alex Orji, he is a quarterback that we know can run, and it's all coming down to what his arm is going to be. He could kind of be a little bit like Jalen Milroe, where even early on there was a sluggish start for Jalen Milroe. He got benched, and then they quickly went back to him, and look, Jalen Milroe got his team to a college football playoff where they lost to Michigan. I think Michigan, if everything goes right, with that defense, which is going to be as good as they get, as long as the quarterback play is solid, they could win a playoff game this year. And Donovan Edwards needs to be Donovan Edwards of the national championship game, or 2 years ago Donovan Edwards. Because last year, the regular season, he did take a big step back. So those are my expectations. If everything goes right for Michigan this year, 1 playoff win.
What about Alabama with Kalen DeBoer replacing Nick Saban?
National championship game. I think Alabama, if everything goes right, I'm not saying win it, but they could get to the national championship game. And as great of a coach as Nick Saban is, Kalen DeBoer is going to bring out a different version of Jalen Milroe. And Jalen Milroe will be a lot better of a football player from start to finish this year than he was last year. And did you happen to see, by the way, that they reconfigured, redesigned Nick Saban's office? Like Nick Saban's office, if I had to describe it, kind of looked like a cigar lounge where you would go have an old fashioned and a cigar. It's very old school looking. It's very like dull too. Kalen DeBoer's office now looks like this is 2024 Alabama football. Very cool looking office. So that's I don't know if you saw that. So did you see the office?
I did not, unfortunately, no.
And they redid the office. They changed a few things. I thought they would just keep Saban's office, right? And it's like a historical landmark, and then you just make DeBoer like a wing in the building as well. Next team.
Big year for Ryan Day and Ohio State.
Yeah, Ryan Day can win it all this year. He can. That defense is going to be really good. Offensively, there's not a better 1-2 punch running the football in the country. Now, the only concern I have two concerns about Ohio State. Number one, it's their football coach in a big game. Number two, though, how we just talked about the Steelers, right? The quarterback room was so dreadful. They made some alterations, and we don't know how much. We know it's better, but we don't know how good the room actually is. Kyle McCord was not a big game quarterback. Even up against, I know that he gets credit right in the Notre Dame game, but people forget he almost threw an interception. Should have got picked off, quite frankly, in that game up against Notre Dame. And against Ohio State, with the ball late, got picked off, Rod Moore ended the game. So they got better bringing in Will Howard. But is Will Howard actually a good quarterback with Ohio State? You got better, but are you championship quality, what you need out of your quarterback? But I do think with Ohio State and the limited amount of teams that I think could actually win it all, Ohio State is one of those teams that could win it all this year.
Another Big Ten coach with a lot of pressure this year, Penn State with James Franklin.
Playoff. Just making the college football playoff. They make the playoff. That's all I could expect out of them. And I didn't know this, but I found out the other day that one of our Penn State sycophants actually is leaving the company. And we got to know this guy pretty well during the summer. And that's Chris Hess. Now, Hickey is like Penn Stater number one around here. And Hickey thinks they're going one loss this year, and they're going to make the playoff. But when I found out that Chris Hess was leaving the company, I texted him, and let me pull up this text. And I said, good luck, brother, and whatever is next. Really appreciate your work on the show all throughout the summer. Thank you for your help in filling in. He sent me a very nice message back, but I'm not going to read the very nice message back. And then I said, anytime, stay in touch, and expect heartbreak in January. He goes, January? And this is coming from a Penn State sycophant. He goes, December 21st with Franklin. And that's like the first college football playoff game in the opening round. So how about that? I think they get to the playoff this year, but to expect anything more out of that, I just can't do it. There's too many unknowns with this team, and the coach is not a big game coach.
What about Deion Sanders in year 2 with Colorado?
Bowl eligibility. That's the best. If you're saying, Ack gave me a look. What's this look that you give me here?
I'm not buying it.
Okay. See, this is not the segment, though. I'm with you. I think they're only winning 5 games this year.
Yes.
The segment is, how far are you willing to go? So I think if everything goes right, Colorado could have Shedeur Sanders be a top 10 pick, and they will be a bowl-eligible team. That's how far I'm willing to go with the Buffaloes of Colorado. Next team.
All right, team that was sneakily number 6 in the top 25, Ole Miss.
1 win in a college football playoff is how far I'm willing to go this year. They have the offense. They got the quarterback. We know what the coach is in Lane Kiffin. The defense is the big question. You know, if it's a seesaw, you know the offense is going to be all the way up here. Is there a way where the defense could get here, or is it going to be all the way down there? But they spent a lot of money, as we know, with name, image, and likeness. I could see them, if everything goes right, hotty-toddy, get a little 1 win in the college football playoff.
All right, a down year by their standards, considering they just won 2 straight national titles, Georgia.
Win it all, and they're the favorites to win it all, and they should win it all. I know there's a lot of off-the-field problems now, but Kirby Smart, right, put a big dent in college football with those back-to-back national championships. The question now for Kirby Smart, does he travel down the road of Saban, or does he travel down the road of Dabo Swinney? Have we already seen your better days? Now, Georgia, I know Big Ten fans won't like this, but it's true. They play in the premier conference in the sport. You know, Big Ten is phenomenal, but the SEC to me is still the premier conference in the sport. I think Kirby Smart, with being at Georgia rather than being at Clemson, right, is going to travel more so down the path to Saban than he would Dabo Swinney. Dabo's problem is very arrogant, not willing to adapt to this new college football with the transfer portal, and that's been well documented. And he hit it so out of the park in the ACC with Clemson, where it's very tough to win, and he's won more than anyone could have imagined. When you're stubborn and you're not willing to adapt to what the sport is, that's what's going to make you not win another national championship again. Georgia's just set up to be a machine for years and years to come.
What about Nebraska with Dylan Raiola in the mix?
I think they could be the 5th best team in the Big Ten. They will not be better than Ohio State. They will not be better than Oregon. They will not be better than Penn State. They will not be better than Michigan. But that 5th spot's up for grabs, right? People will talk about Wisconsin. People will talk about Iowa, USC. That's all fair. But you look at their schedule, they could be an 8 or 9 win team this year. So I look at Nebraska. They could be, if everything goes right, the 5th spot in the Big Ten. And Dylan Raiola, now he could be as good as like the 2nd best quarterback in the Big Ten. I think he'll win Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Dylan Raiola this year. I have big expectations for him.
What about Texas, first year in the SEC?
Win it all. I know that's a lofty goal, but they enter this year as a top 4 team in the sport. Quinn Ewers, who has been underappreciated and is now back for another year with the Longhorns, with Arch Manning waiting in the wings. They've improved with Isaiah Bond. I know they lost, the offensive line is still very good. They got pieces there in Texas. Sark's a good coach. He finally has that feel of Texas being back. They took a big step last year, get into the college football playoff. Could have won that game up against Washington in the playoff. But I think, Texas is a team that could win it all this year.
We had their head coach in Brent Pry on last week. How about Virginia Tech?
I think Virginia Tech can win the ACC this year. I really do. I look at everyone's going to pick Florida State, and I love Norvell and DJ Uiagalelei. I'm hoping he shoves it right towards Dabo Swinney this year in that game that I can't wait for. Clemson is obviously going to be a sexy pick as well. But then after that, it's like, okay, who else can win the ACC? And this is what I think people are forgetting too. With the college football playoff, the new format of it, 12 teams get in. 5 spots are guaranteed to the highest-ranked conference champs. Could you imagine we get Florida State and, let's say, Virginia Tech, where Florida State's the best team in the conference, Virginia Tech is second, and Virginia Tech upsets Florida State? That's how the ACC or the Big 12 gets 2 teams in the college football playoff. I think if everything goes right for Virginia Tech this year, with Drones at quarterback, they're just phenomenal wide receiving room. I think they could win the ACC this year.
They were able to keep their head coach in Lance Leipold. What about Kansas?
They need their quarterback to stay healthy. But the Big 12 to me is the biggest question mark in college football. I don't have a damn clue who's going to win the Big 12. I love Utah with Whittingham and Rising, but they're the number 1 team projected. I'm not going to pick them. I said the other week I'm going to go Kansas State. There's like 8 teams that you could legitimately consider winning the Big 12, so why not with Kansas? And what a story that would be with Leipold. When you were doing, what was the
Eye on College Football?
Eye on College Football, sorry. Well, it's been a few years. That show is no longer. But when you were doing that show, would you ever think we're talking about maybe there's a chance Kansas could go win the Big 12?
When Lance Leipold took over, yeah.
Okay, but before that.
No.
Yeah. Like, that was as dreadful as a program for like an 8-year stretch.
All it takes, and this is always my thing about when there are coaching vacancies and people say, oh, that's not a good job, that's a good job. All it takes is the right guy to win somewhere, and all it takes is the wrong guy to mess up a program that had been years in the making and tradition rich.
You look at that stretch since 2010. Like, I liked Turner Gill a lot when he was coming over from Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Seemed like a good hire at the time.
3-9, 2-10. Then Charlie Weiss, 1-11, 3-9, fired after going 2-2.
Well, that was a mistake from the start.
David Beatty was 0-12, 2-10, 1-11, and 3-9.
Mm-hmm.
And then Les Miles, 3-9, 0-9. Leipold comes in 2-10, 6-7, 9-4.
I think the difference is, and this is no disrespect meant to the other guys, but I think that he had a system that he followed that he thought would work, and it did. And and he stuck to it. And that is, in a nutshell, who he is. You look at everywhere he's been, he's had success. So, thankfully for him, his success translated to a bigger stage after winning at Buffalo. But everywhere he's been, he's always won, and I think he's been the same guy. He hasn't changed one bit.
David Beatty, how do you say his last name?
I think it was Beatty.
Beatty?
I can't remember.
Well, I said Beatty. I thought it was Beatty, too.
Could be.
Where do you think he is right now? Can take a guess. What do you think his role is?
I'm guessing he's a wide receivers coach somewhere.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Houston Gamblers, co-offensive coordinator, wide receiver coach in 2022.
Not bad.
All righty. Stu, I think we got two more teams there. What else?
Yeah, two more. Another team in a new conference this year, the Oregon Ducks.
Win it all. They have all the resources. Gabriel comes in, was in a better spot than when Bo Nix was coming in from Auburn. I know they lost a lot of talent, but they were able to replace it seamlessly. That's a team that could win it all. I know Lanning did not win his two big games last year. Had two opportunities to take down Washington, couldn't do it. But I believe in Dan Lanning. I believe in that Oregon program. They could win it all this year. The only problem with Oregon is Hickey picked them to win it all. That's the only problem. So you may be a victim of the Hickey Hex.
And last but not least, Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, year 3.
College football playoff. It's designed for them to get in, but unfortunately for Notre Dame, with what they've turned into, and this was in a 4-team, like, even if they got in, I just had no expectations for them. I saw that Riley Leonard was officially named their starting quarterback, to no surprise. You know Notre Dame's always going to have a good offensive line. They could make the college football playoff, but if they get in, like, they could be like the 5th or the 6th seed, right? Like, if they're the 5th seed, let's say, and they end up getting the 12th seed, which could be
the Group of 5
the Group
champion.
of 5, then they could win a playoff game. But does Notre Dame going into this year, do I think they're going to be like the 5th? I don't. I think I don't think Notre Dame's going to be great. But this new playoff is designed for them to get in. So that's why I just think they'll get in, and that's it. Like, you're a Notre Dame fan. How far are you willing to go with them? Maybe one win?
The most would be one playoff win, but I think a lot of things would have to break their way. I think they're definitely a playoff team, but I'd have a hard time seeing them winning a playoff game.
So I know you're very emotional with the Lakers. I know you're very emotional with the Raiders. How emotional are you with Notre Dame? Like, are you a wreck when they lose?
I wouldn't say a wreck. It's definitely on a lower level than some of those other teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
We may need you to start getting a little emotional with Notre Dame.
Okay, sure. I could be emotional.
We may have to call Boyle out of the pen. We know Boyle.
Oh, we know he will be emotional if they,
fake
lose
Irish fandom. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll wrap up shop next. Talk a little bit about Gardner Minshew and Stu's Raiders. And is this the last season for Davante Adams in Vegas? But update time first. Here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, a couple of LA teams are encouraged by the sight of their quarterbacks back on the field. Matthew Stafford returned to the Rams after battling a hamstring injury, and Justin Herbert is over his plantar fasciitis and is back with the Chargers, while the Bears are taking no chances with Caleb Williams, who will sit out the preseason finale. The Braves have had a tough season, but still in playoff contention. They open a series against the first-place Phillies, holding the final wild card in the National League. Despite it being a difficult time for the defending NL East champs, they've lost Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, and just as Michael Harris returns, Austin Riley is now done for the regular season. Brian Snitker's team has persevered so far, and the Braves manager chooses to look at the positives of their recent road trip.
It was tough 6-4, I'll tell you that. There's some rough games in there, but that's, anytime you can come west here for that, 3 teams and finish over 500, that's pretty good.
Ronaldo Lopez, just off the injured list, starts against 12-game winner Zach Wheeler. The Mets, a game and a half back for that final wild card, continue their series against the Orioles after taking the series opener. And that Baltimore loss last night dropped them a half game behind the Yankees in the AL East. New York will open a 3-game series against the Guardians. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Rock your body. Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
How about this story? Godzer Shirelis, the former NFL lineman. Stu, do you have any idea where this story is going, by the way? Have you read this?
This the guy in the plane?
Yep.
Yeah, I do.
The guy in the plane. The plane! They
don't want to give away the whole story.
No, yeah. So I guess I still have to say allegedly, but he allegedly urinated on another passenger during his Delta flight to Dublin. And they had to turn the plane around because of how he was allegedly acting. So a few things here. You think two ways. One, he was maybe a little messed up and didn't have control of it and did something that you just regret. Or two, what did someone do that, can't say that word probably on the radio. I was going to say, bleep him off. I don't think I could say that, Stu. It begins with a P, right? I think that's one of those, yeah, piss him off. Okay.
Depends how you use it.
Okay.
One of those words.
I don't want to upset anyone here, but how did someone piss him off or then he said, I'm going to urinate on you? Okay? I don't think I could say it then the other way. There we go. That's why I was tiptoeing gently around that one. So he released a statement today. I'd like to address the media reports about me that surfaced today regarding a situation, that's what we know, a situation that occurred on board a flight to Ireland this past weekend, he wrote. The flight was unexpectedly delayed for approximately 4 hours, and it did not take off until after 12:30 a.m. In preparation for the unexpected overnight flight, I took a sleeping medication that I don't normally use, which resulted in behavior that is not represented in my character. I'd like to apologize to the passenger and flight crew. Hey, you got to apologize, but I don't think apology is just going to cut it here. If you were urinating, allegedly, on someone else. I've seen a lot of messed up behavior on airplanes. Seriously. Now, this pales in comparison to this. You know what annoys me the most? People, I was sitting in, probably the third to last row on my flight to Pittsburgh. I just took the cheapest flight. Assign me to whatever seat. I don't care. It's an hour and 10-minute flight when I was going to Pittsburgh to see the Pirates and then also Bruce Springsteen. The people that are in the last rows of the plane that stand up immediately when the plane ends. I'm not saying they should be urinated on. But, geez, Louise, what are you doing? And some people have, no respect for the flight attendants as well, too. But I have never been on a flight where someone decided to urinate on another customer. Ugh, absolutely disgusting. All righty, Stu, last thing I'll ask you today. Your reaction, Gardner Minshew, starting quarterback for the Raiders.
The right move. I think he is the better option than Aiden O'Connell. I don't think it really means a whole lot. I think it's maybe the difference of one win. Mm-hmm. And if he even keeps the job long term, if they get off to a bad enough start with their schedule being as tough as it is, it might be a case where they utilize O'Connell at some point. But I think it's the right move. I think he gives them the best chance to win right now.
I'm not disagreeing. He gives a better chance to win than Aiden O'Connell.
Yes.
And he is a better quarterback than Aiden O'Connell.
Yes.
I'm not saying Aiden O'Connell is going to develop into anything special, but we know what Gardner Minshew is. I think we may know what Aiden O'Connell is, but we haven't seen enough of him. That's why I was kind of expecting what Tim Brown said to us, that O'Connell will start the year, and then if he's not that, then they'll pass the baton over to Gardner Minshew. O'Connell must be so bad, though, behind the scenes where they're just oh, here we go. It's Gardner time.
And weirdly, he wasn't that bad, especially this past week's game against the Cowboys. He was actually pretty good until he threw a pick six up until then. But I don't know. I just think at this point, they're probably a 5 or 6 win team. And either if it's O'Connell or Minshew, I don't think it really makes that much of a difference.
This is also, I think, the bigger conversation. This will be Davante Adams' final season with the Raiders. And that will pick back up during the trade deadline. I think it's very tough to get a player of that magnitude traded in season. Not impossible, but I think it's tough. But there's no way that Davante Adams can walk away from the season, even though everyone loves Gardner Minshew. Right? Fan favorite, just not a great quarterback. He's not terrible, but he's just not a long-term answer. With how Davante Adams wants to win, you can't say that the Raiders, for the rest of your career, put you in a good position to go win a Super Bowl. And that's the last thing missing from your resume. So I'll even take it a step further. If I'm him, I would request a trade back to the Packers. I would. Because I know everyone's going to throw out the Jets. I don't know what the long-term future is of Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers may play another year or two. Jordan Love's their guy for the foreseeable future. So I would, he's never going to get dealt to Kansas City. The Raiders wouldn't do that. But I would explore maybe a little reunion with the Green Bay Packers. That would be me. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Good to be back. I will be off, though, tomorrow. And then we will be in Vegas Thursday and Friday. So looking forward to those two shows, Thursday and Friday in Vegas. You can listen to us from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific. Big thanks to Michael Samter. Big thanks to Stuart Kovacs, Rich Ackerman, each and every one of you for interacting with the show. Also like to thank Chris Hare for stopping by to preview the Chargers and Bobby Hebert previewing the Nolens Saints. Nolens. New Orleans. Nolens. New Orleans. Gumbo. Alligator. Beignets from Cafe Du Monde. Alrighty, I will talk to you Thursday in Vegas, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening. We out. Bye-bye.